Hello, for this video I'm going to try something a wee bit different. Instead of being interviewed, I'm going to give a short talk on aspects of austerity. I'm not going to be repeating what Nicola Sturgeon or Alex Salmond have been saying, and I'm not going to be running over what I recently wrote in a blog about it. I'm going to try and deal with some different aspects. Because some of these are a little bit technical in nature, I'm going to refer on occasions to some of the notes that I've got in front of me. Professor Simon Wren-Lewis of Merton College, Oxford, said only a few days ago that by insisting on cuts in public expenditure, the government has delayed the meagre economic recovery by 2 years. And with the election drawing nearer, it allowed the pace of austerity to slow while pretending that it hadn't. Now George Osborne is promising, should the Tories be returned in the election in May, to put the country through the same painful and unnecessary process all over again. Indeed, in the budget, the proposal is to accelerate cuts for the first 2 years. Given this, it is astonishing that Ed Balls of the Labour Party has said that there is not a single thing in the budget he needs to reverse. Astonishing, unless of course deep down Ed Balls accepts the Tory analysis. The financial crisis has led consumers and firms to spend less and in some situations to save more. That makes sense for individuals, but the problem was that because everyone was doing it, the total amount of demand in the economy was falling. Just ask any small business in the constituency. Despite incredibly low interest rates, it's judged too risky by many businesses to invest. The last time interest rates across the globe fell almost to zero, and still the economy continued to decline, was in what was called the Great Depression of the 1930s. Economists call this situation a liquidity trap. The big problem in a liquidity trap is that interest rates cannot become negative, because everyone would just take their money out of the banks and hold cash. John Maynard Keynes argued following the experience of the Great Depression that in a situation of this kind, governments should attempt to replace the missing demand. And that is precisely what the SNP are arguing. We need to replace demand in the economy. In a hugely controversial policy at the time, President Roosevelt adopted this approach of huge public works investment to stimulate the economy. It worked. The US economy recovered. So why do the Tory, Labour and Liberal Democrats all believe to some extent in austerity? One argument is that all three, like most mainstream media, are mesmerised by financial market analysis and the simplicity of the austerity message. While Nobel Prize-winning economists like Joseph Stiglitz are ignored, but banker views are lauded. Indeed, the very banking analysts who failed to see the banking crash coming. It suggests too that a phenomenon known as groupthink is in operation, as it clearly was in the boardrooms of banks in the lead up to the crisis. Groupthink enables groups to believe in the absurd with utter certainty. The same kind of consensus that President Roosevelt had to break to revive the US economy. So when you hear the SNP argue strongly against the logic of austerity economics, when you hear the SNP call for a stimulus to the economy as the best way of tackling the financial and economic crisis, expect us to be shouted down by the City of London fat cats and the establishment parties. But perhaps that should give us some comfort that what we are saying, based on sound economic analysis, is what needs to be said. Thanks for listening.